is a negative, but at some points you say, oh my god, that's too much, because we don't feel in our world that that's right. Do you not feel that maybe Islam could also change and give itself a new view so the world could see it in a different way? Because for someone like me, it seems very alien, and that's the problem here. Like, it feels very alien to me, and it doesn't feel like I have acceptance within it. You know, even the way you talk to me is very, like, it's full on. You know, I have to really try and get into speaking to you, and that's something which I feel is like a big part of it, that there isn't an inclusion, and there should be more of a dialogue that is on both sides. Everyone wants peace, everyone wants love, everyone wants harmony. No one wants murder, no one wants anything. But it seems like it's now a time to kind of open up the gates and allow each other to kind of make something together, surely. Anyway, I don't know.
Just to come back to the point of adultery, which we were speaking about earlier. In an Islamic society, the society which believes in the teachings and upholds that teaching and applies that teaching in a societal level, we have certain ways of dealing with each other. Yeah. So you cannot just go and, like animals that we see in the wild, and have sexual relations with anyone and everyone you want. Yeah? You can't do that. Sex is constrained within a legal contract, within a legal marriage. So the people you're married to, you love them, you care for them, care for their well-being. You know, you have this friendship and harmony and so on and so forth within this marriage. So this is mutual trust and love and understanding of care and so on. Adultery is what? That violating that trust and care and loving relationship, and without letting your partner know, you go and have sexual relations with someone else. Right? This affects the immediate family. This affects your relationship that you had with your husband or your wife. Your marriage can break up. This affects the very children that is within the family. That will affect the whole family unit. And in Islam, we have we are not just husband and wife and that's it. We are a whole community. Our family and our immediate families, we're a whole community. You know how we integrate with each other. This social cohesion that we have within the family unit and the bigger unit. So when that relationship breaks down, imagine the effect, the detrimental effect it's going to have on the children. A 13-year-old children, a teenager, now what's going to happen? Oh, my dad just happened to have a relationship with another woman. It's going to break their morale. It's going to have an effect, a huge psychological effect on my 13-year-old, for example, right? Islam doesn't want that. Islam says, no, we want a healthy society. So what it does is, there might be certain people who need to have relationship with more than one woman, for example, that Islam allows, even though initially it was to look after and care for the orphan children, but then it is extended to other reasons. So if a man says, okay, I need another woman, fine, have a legal contract and get married. Consensual marriage, get married, so that your wife knows that you're getting married to another wife, so this is something that is mutually understood. In Islam, we have the provisions of marrying up to 4. Okay, why 4 and why not 5? Why not 6? Why not 3? Okay, this is from the wisdom of God. Okay, marrying up to 4. The provision is there. Even after that,
is it? Could a woman marry 4 men?
Interesting question. Why do you think Islam did not give that provision to women to marry more than one husband?
I don't know.
Tell me. Know who the father is. Who is the father?
Not all. This is how we try to reason. But why don't we ask the woman? Ask the woman. They are monogamous.
Yeah.
Monogamous by nature, right? They want to be looked after and cared for and loved by one man, one husband.
Well, that's not true, man.
Ask the woman. Ask the woman. That's what I'm saying. I can't ask you. I'm sorry. I can't ask you another woman. But if you ask the woman, this is what you will see. Man by very nature, you will see. They are polygamous by nature. So Islam says it restricts this tendency to a limited degree. So this is your degree. At any one point of time, you can have up to 4 wives. But with wives, they don't even want it. If listen, my friend, if women really wanted more than a husband, why don't we see that in our society here in England, in France, in Germany, in America, that women are having 2 husbands? Why are they agreeing to a law saying
they
only one?
They have a divorce and then they move on with their life.
At any one time. Why don't they have that? This is from the psychological makeup, the physiological, psychological makeup. There might be other reasons why this is not practical, and this is one of the reasons that in terms of finding, because Islam came for everyone, even the people in Africa who are dying of starvation, for example, they still want to live, and if you have more than one husband, who's going to be the father of the child, and so on and so forth. Various reasons you can put in. So when it comes to adultery, Islam gives you the provision to meet and satisfy your sexual need within this legal contract. Even if after that a man goes and has relationship with another woman behind the back of his wife and the family, it affects, as I said, the very fabric of the stability of the society. Islam considers to be a heinous crime because now this is a crime against the society, not an individual. So that is why the punishment that you will see, there are about 5 or 6 punishments, called fixed punishments, capital punishments, 5 or 6. Handful why? They are crimes against the society. The other punishment, for example, is highway robbery. That you not only rob, but you actually come and say, no, highway robberies. Someone comes and in front of all the public, they violate and they threaten the lives of individuals. Crime against the society. Because this is so heinous in an Islamic society, for any society to flourish, Islam says no, this needs to be stopped. Full stop like that. And how? Those people who commit these crimes, they will be punished severely. So anyone who's thinking of doing that, the deterrent is there. You know what? You will be crucified, both sides on one side, or you'll be hanged, or you'll be decapitated, and so on and so forth. Very severe punishment. And the punishment will be what? Mete it out in public so you can see it. These are the aspects of laws to deal with, how to deal with crime and punishment. One aspect is called deterrent. It's deterring the other would-be individuals from committing this crime. So coming back to the issues of theft, chopping of the hands is very harsh. To most people, it's barbaric. Because how can you chop the hands? But what it does is, it creates within the people that, okay, it is not something that's like, okay, it's going to be 1 day in prison or £1,000 fine, and I'm a millionaire, so I can just, commit theft anytime I want and just come out of it easily, just like that. No, my hand's going to be chopped off. People don't like their hands to be chopped off. People don't like to be stoned to death or flogged with 80 lashes. They don't like that. It's painful or it's lethal. It's going to kill them. They don't like it. And that thing will stop people from doing that. And in an Islamic history, when Islam was implemented in the geographic areas, Islam was spread to a lot of, Middle East and Africa and even towards France and Asia and so on. It was flourishing. People weren't. Crimes, if you look at the crimes, in fact, this is an interesting thing. I mean, a PhD thesis maybe you could do if one hasn't been done. The levels of crimes within Islamic society when Islam was implemented, we can find historical records and find out how it was. Why were the crimes so minimal? It was not only the criminal and punishment punitive laws and the deterrents, but also the other laws about the individual, how the individual was reformed in society, how the individual was educated. Yep, educated. So, the very fact that punishment of theft, it's not that anyone just steals and you chop off the hands. No, it's not like that at all, because we are told to imagine like that. Every wealthy individual, they have to pay 2.5% of their surplus wealth to charity. Yeah? 2.5%. If I have £1 million, that's a lot of money, right? Surplus wealth, 2.5% of that. In an Islamic state, every wealthy individual who has the means and beyond that money, they have to pay this zakat. Ensuring what? There are not poor people remaining. At one time, one of the caliphs, I can't remember his name is.
Abdulaziz.
Umar
bin Abdulaziz.
It was difficult for him to find people who were so poor to give charity.
To find the
people.
Poor people.
That's how it was. So if your provisions scarce of you, food, shelter, clothing, your education, all your basic needs, right? Your hunger is taken care of. You don't need to steal the bread and so on. In fact, if someone stole something out of hunger, like so and so on, you cannot apply the punishment, abstain himself from hunger. You as a neighbor fail that, because not only this responsibility to the state, you as a neighbor have the responsibility that the Prophet told us. You are not a believer that if you feed yourself and the person next to your neighbor dies of starvation and goes hungry. You're not even a believer. You're not a believer.
And the neighbor is 40 down. 40
Yeah.
down.
You're not even a believer. So my responsibility as a neighbor is that I have to make sure they're well fed, even though
Neighborhood, yeah.
nothing. Yep. So this is how the community cohesion in Islam
Do you
was.
live by that in London?
London is not an Islamic state, so it's not.
No, of course, but surely you want to implement that, so wouldn't you do that? Do you-
So best,
asking-
the best as we can, in the best as we can, we should do that.
Do you?
No, I don't have a neighbor who's poor, but of course, if I did,
Then no one lives around you who's poor. I mean, we all live in
what I'm saying is, the problem, no, the problem now lies
This
elsewhere.
society is justice society.
Society has made
Everyone have a money.
the poor has made it poorer, yeah, and the rich richer.
You
The
go to
whole
benefit,
society
they give you.
has changed. But coming back to the Islamic society and when it was implemented, so it was difficult to find a poor people, and the poor people didn't have the necessity to go and steal. So even after all the provision is given to me, if I now go and the education is given to me, then I shouldn't, and the morals have been sort of given into me that this is good and this is bad, and even after that I go and I steal, not because of necessity, because something's wrong with me. Stealing
How
is
do, you,
not.
how do you feel this could be implemented here? That's what I don't understand. It's
We're
all
not talking about. Yeah, we're talking about why.
Yeah, but then
people
why
say,
talk about
oh,
it? I mean,
how do you agree with punishing the adultery with stoning or cutting the?
I didn't say that. I just meant about
Not
the
you.
kind of-
There are friends here who are earlier on who raised this. I'm simply saying, in an Islamic state,
yeah, yeah.
Islamic setting, this is something that works best and worked best. It was not even taken to be, something that's barbaric, but it was taken to give you the ideal punishment and punitive systems. Why? Because it works, and it worked. Society has changed now in this society. They're not implementing the God's law, obviously. Look at the laws of usury and interest and so on and so forth. If you're rich, just make poor people even poorer and so on and so forth. It's not going to work here. You have to work in Muslim lands, bring Islam's there, so that you perhaps, who are not Muslims, can see what Islam is. Because that's exactly how the non-Muslims earlier on in the historic period, they saw Islam being implemented in the lands, in the lives, and that's why people became Muslims in large numbers. As I said, certain countries, Malaysia and others, they became Muslims without an Islamic army, just because of people's dealing and transaction.
Trading.
I can give you one example where one of the, a Muslim, he had a clothes shop, and his one of the employees sold a piece of cloth that had some damage in it, like holes or something. And when he came to realize, he said, "Go. Find that buyer and return the money, or return the money that this clothes is not worth of." So he paid £10 for it. He says, "No, it's up to £10. That was £2 because of default." So he had to wait for 2 days or 3 days to find the individual and say, "Sorry, this clothes doesn't worth that much. I'm sorry, there was a fault in it. So this is your money back." That was the nature of dealing and transaction from Islam. This is how Islam made people. Because this is the level of morality, of goodness that Islam inbuilds in people. It perfects the nobility of the character. People, yes, people have the nobility in the character. Islam says, no, let's perfect it. That's why the Prophet was raised. As the Prophet himself said, okay, بُعِثُّ
يتمم مكارم الأخلاق.
akhlaq. So I was raised to perfect this nobility of character. So Islam is not bringing anything new, my friend, as you said. I agree with you. It's not bringing anything new. It's actually making people come back to the noble self, and then reminds everyone to come back to the worship of God, which people somehow go away from because they think with the technological advancements, we don't need God anymore because we can explain how the universe works. Just because I explains how the car works, I can tell you the car, everything how it works, it doesn't mean it wasn't made by a manufacturer. That's the understanding people have. Oh, we know how the universe works, we don't need a creator or designer. So Islam tells us that we need to come back to the worship of God. Not come back to the worship of one God. Worship Him. And what is worship? Worship is not going to a pond in a cold day or a cold night and immersing yourself 21 times or something. It's not like that. Worship is everything that you do. If you do it in accordance with God, and what God is pleased with, that's worship. So if I, for example, removed a thorn from the road or an obstacle from the road, that's worship. If I gave charity, that's worship. If I smile to my brother, that's worship. Yep. And of course, there are fixed form of worship where in a set period of in a day that I remember God, because in remembrance of God, the hearts find satisfaction, as the Quran tells us. So we have this form, set rituals where we pray and we fast and so on. And that, of course, there are other reasons for why we need a specific form of rituals. But that's worship. Worship is not something like you do something, you think, oh, I cannot do that. No. Doing everything in accordance with what God is pleased with is worship. So if God says, for example, when you deal with people, do not lie to them. Do not cheat them. No? When you are testifying, always speak the truth, even though if it's against your own brother, against your own family, against your own mother, and so on and so forth. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, our prophet, he said, if Fatima, my daughter, was to steal, she'll get her hands chopped off. There is no favoritism in Islam. But unfortunately, this teaching of Islam has been so much diluted of misunderstanding and propaganda. We find in practice, many Muslim countries, if you're in the government and your son or daughter, your cousin or your nephew does something, you get away with it. Only the poor people pays the penalty. They're not implementing Islam, and that's why partly the problem is we are at fault as well, because we are not showing you what Islam is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah?
That's right.
We are responsible because, and we are to blame. If we were to show you what Islam is in our lives, in our practice, in our dealing, when you see me in your workplace, in your university, in your school, college, or in your shop, or wherever you are, if you saw me that I was always honest, I was always of a good character, you can always trust me, rely on me, then you would say, okay, that's what Islam is all about. Islam makes an individual, yeah, but we don't see that, unfortunately. So if we did that like we did before and reformed ourselves to the teaching of Islam, then perhaps the people will close that gap of understanding what Muslim and Islam is all about. So I agree with you many points.
Great, good to meet you. Have a lovely day.